Good morning and welcome in. This is Five Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. Woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on Five Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Good morning. Welcome to Five Clubs. Great to have you with us. A Monday morning edition live on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio Channel 92 on Sirius XM. I'm Gary Williams. This program is 2 hours today, and every hour is going to be presented by Century Insurance. They're in the business of business insurance. If you need to evaluate yours, do it with them. We appreciate how deeply invested they are in the game of golf, from the first tee to the USGA to the PGA Tour to right here at Five Clubs. They want to be right by you at Century Insurance. People mock me for having multiple Century mugs here. The hydration station is full today because we're going 2 hours. And we've got a lot to get to because the PGA Championship is upon us. So here is your tee sheet. Over the course of the next couple of hours, we will not neglect those who crossed the line yesterday across the world of golf. Your weekly winners coming up. It is PGA Championship week, the 108th edition at Aronimink in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. Tyler Collet is in the field, playing in his 5th PGA Championship by way of being a member of the PGA of America. Before he begins his preparation on a Monday morning, he's going to spend a little time with me, Gil Hanse. Gil is not only responsible for the restoration and the renovation of some of the most important golf courses in America, but if you look at the schedule for the PGA Championship, the next 4 are either Gil Hanse, Jim Wagner, and Cavemen restorations or original works. Starting this week, it's a home game for him. Don't know where Dozer Cam is going to be on a Monday morning, but Gil's going to be with us. Our Club 5 rankings, it's Monday morning. We've got some Norwegian flavor that we have added to Club 5. We will open it up on a Monday. Taylor Zarzour, his program just concluded on PGA Tour Radio. He was at the Truist Championship. He will be part of the broadcast, the global broadcast of the PGA Championship. He's with me. 30 years ago, Mark Brooks won the PGA in a playoff over Kenny Perry at Valhalla. He will join me in the second hour, as will Trevor Immleman, your lead analyst for this second major of the year. He made his way from Charlotte up to Philly last night. Appreciate his time. He's with us. Keith Stewart. Got to get the angles from Keith on our one lone show of the week. And of course, we will have our PGA Championship picks. And it's an extended roster of all the contributors here at Five Clubs who are going to be a part of it. So we've got a full slate. But I mentioned about these weekly winners. We always celebrate them. Golf Pride, the #1 golf grip company in the world, presents these to you. And across the board, everybody had these faces that were going to be seen on this Monday, starting with Kristoffer Reitan from Norway, wins the Truist Championship. Jarl Premlal won't be 23 years of age. Young man from South Africa. He missed the cut by 9 at the Turkish Airlines Open last week. Everybody knew that you could take him and lay 13.5 and he would cover. He won by 14 shots. That's right, by 14 shots on the DP World Tour. Lucas Herbert wins the Live Golf event up there in Virginia. Gino Tinnicool, love it when the best players in the world answer back to each other. It's been about Nelly, but Gino is now won for the second time. She wins yesterday at the Mizuho Americas Open in the great state of New Jersey. And finally, Boo Weekley wins the Insperity Invitational down there in Texas. His first win on PGA Tour Champions. But if you think that I am not going to mention Brandt Snedeker winning, we didn't have enough space to have 6 faces. He's more than a face. He's a 10-time winner. He wins at Myrtle Beach. Monster win for Sneds. Who rocks the crown as well as anybody. Those weekly winners presented by Golf Pride. When it comes to options and all the materials through the bag, because they now have the Zero Taper Putter Grip Series available to you. They are the leading grip company, and being at the Truist Championship and seeing players hit shots through the bag, everybody plays Golf Pride. Why wouldn't you? They are the standard in grips. Now, when it comes to the Truist Championship, being, you know, all of this gluttony of signature series events that we've had from the Masters. Then you had the Heritage, and then you had the Cadillac, and yesterday the Truist Championship concluded. So we take a look at the first page of the leaderboard, and it's diverse in terms of style, it's diverse in terms of experience and accomplishment. Kristoffer Reitan is a great example of pathways. His pathway to the PGA Tour is via the DP World Tour in terms of overall season performance, got him his space on the PGA Tour. And then by virtue of the Aon Next 10, Aon Swing 5, and all these little machinations and quantitative data that put him literally at the 11th hour into this event. You know what? Took advantage of the opportunity, wins by 2. He was steely and steady coming down the stretch, got a monster break on 16. How that ball jumped out of that fairway bunker. More on him later. Ricky Fowler, oh, he's going to rue that miss on 16. Bogeyed 18. If he posts 14, that's extra heat on Reitan coming in. But nonetheless, Ricky Fowler is having a very good season. Nicolai Højgaard, I watched him for a day and a half. He played exceptionally well. He is up to 15th in the FedEx Cup standings. Alice Fitzpatrick, you talked about taking advantage of opportunity. 4th alone. He is now 22nd in the FedEx Cup standings. Tommy Fleetwood, Sun J.M., J.J. Spawn, they all tied for 5th. Ludwig Oberg, that's 5 of 6 in the top 8, shoots 66 in the final round. Harry Hall also finishes in a tie for 8th. And there you see the names Cantlay, Matt McCarty, who was on top of that leaderboard at the beginning of the week. Cam Young had a horrific putting day on Sunday, but still another top 10 for him. We'll mention him when we open the club. You can count on that. But let's get back to the guy who won, because at the beginning of the year, when you looked at the players who were coming off the DP World Tour onto the PGA Tour, you're going, I have a little bit of familiarity with him and him and him. Probably modest to none when it came to Kristoffer Reitan. And I had a conversation with him at the Players, because he was among a group of players who on Wednesday morning received some Tiffany cufflinks. Tiffany cufflinks, when they're gifted to you, cost you something. How many people have French cuffs in their closet? Raise your hand. You didn't, did you? So even though it was gifted by the PGA Tour, they wind up costing you. Well, Kristoffer Reitan can now buy a bunch of French cuff shirts because he just won a signature series event. And I mentioned the pathway onto the PGA Tour. And then because he was starting to put together some good performances, was playing his way into events like the Players and the Masters. And then by virtue of these additional pathways, like the Aon Next 10 and the Aon Swing 5, which is more of this modest kind of micro divisor of where, how have you done lately? And it's a good thing. And I suggested to Brendan Porath of Fried Egg about a month and a half ago, there should be more. But this is an example of those things working. It's micro meritocracy. Take that term to school today, kids, and you will dazzle your professors. If any of you are even still in school, if you're in college, it's amazing how much time you have off. I digress. Kristoffer Reitan earned that win because he earned his way into the field to begin with, was not gifted the spot. Performance got him in, and performance got it done. Now, let me say this about the transition from this past week to this week, because it's been a run-up, and the run-up has been great fields, absent of 1 and 2 in the same fields together in the 3 signature series events that we have had since the Masters. But even though Rory McIlroy didn't necessarily have a scintillating week, he had, I thought, a useful week, because I followed him every day, not every single hole, but a fair number of holes, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, including yesterday. I went out and followed him, teed off at 10, straight up at 10 o'clock with Akshay Bhatia. And he did on the first hole what he did every single day, and that's why he's poised. He likes that driver. Sometimes, you know, you change equipment, there's new product, there's an insistence by manufacturing, sponsors. You got to play this, we got to sell it. He drove it very, very well. What he didn't do was chip and putt well at all. bottom of the field for the most part, went into Sunday's 70th in strokes gained around the green. Those things can be worked out. So for a guy who only played one time in the month, or twice in the month of March, API, then the Players, played once in April, and he will play twice in May. And yes, it's infrequent, only 6 starts. He's poised. This championship, when it moved to May, I was in total support of it. I'm not going to get wrapped up in should it be here, should it be there. It's where it is. And where it's going is interesting because Aronimink is classic Northeast Philly prime. You go back to the golden age when the Philadelphia intelligentsia with the likes of George Thomas and A.W. Tillinghast and George Crump and the like. Hugh Wilson, the young man from Princeton University, were saying to New York that got a head start when it came to golden age architecture. We'll answer back. And Aronimink is one of those places. Multiple locations. Was born out of the Belmont Cricket Club, which became the Belmont Golf Club, and had multiple locations, and then finally commissioned Donald Ross to come and build the golf course, which resides in Newtown Square, 14 miles west-northwest of Philadelphia. It's modest in length by today's measures. Even though it's a par 70, it's less than 7,500 yards, right around 7,400. Rained some yesterday, may get some more today. And they're going to have some chilly temperatures. Length is never a big issue, and I don't get wrapped up in score. But the truth is that the resistance to par in the PGA Championship has been there. Yes, they went nuts at Valhalla. Even the guy who got incarcerated on Friday got out of the yellow jumpsuit and still shot 66. Scottie Scheffler. Yes, they went crazy in Louisville. But for the most part, and I give credit to the way that the golf course is set up, Kerry Haigh of the PGA of America is regarded by many of the elite players as good a setup man as there is. It's May for the PGA. And the long shadow of Scottie Scheffler, who won this event last year, is poised. So is Rory, and so are a lot of other players. And I wonder, and that would be a question I asked of a number of our guests this morning, is it because the strength of field based on world ranking is the deepest? Does that make it necessarily the hardest, or are simply more players capable of winning? Looking forward to the next 2 hours with you. Tyler Collet is in this field. He's going, can you get to a break, you gas bag, so I can come on, I can talk to you, and then I can go out and start my prep. He will be the first of many guests to talk about this PGA Championship going to a great Golf City, Philadelphia. We take our first break. He will join me. Lots of other guests behind him. We got picks. We got the club. We need another hour. Push live from... Oh my gosh, Tom Knapp just passed out. All right, we're back with Tyler Collet right after this. Back in on this Monday edition of 5 Clubs Live Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on Sirius XM. We're 2 hours today. The PGA Championship is upon us, the 108th edition. The representation from the men who represent this association was determined at Bandon Dunes a couple of weeks ago. He is back in for the 5th time. He was the medalist last year. He won by a tidy 10 last year. This is his 5th PGA Championship. Kind enough to join me from the clubhouse right there at Aronimink on a Monday morning. He's Tyler Collet from the Johns Island Club, representing. I know you're proud to represent that membership and that wonderful club. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good, Gary. How are you?
Doing great. You know, you got not only the preparation because you got the pressure of trying to, do what you needed to do to play your way back in, but also you played at Myrtle Beach. How much do you think that can benefit you of not only another competitive rep, but it's a PGA Tour event? That's got to be beneficial, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was. It's really invaluable to play a PGA Tour event leading up to a major, and I was happy to play well enough to make the cut. And it was a tough weekend, but it's getting reps is what I need. And as a club pro, you don't get to have that a lot. And I'm fortunate enough to have the 6 starts this year as club pro champion last year. And honestly, it's a really cool thing to do, and really invaluable to have those starts.
What have you learned about whether it be your process or competitive edge by getting not only additional competitive opportunities, but this is a stepping up in class, with all due respect, you know that. What have you learned about your own process by getting these starts?
That's a good question. My process doesn't change. When I'm home, I go to work. I get to work at 6 a.m. and get off at 2. I'm fortunate enough to have support there from the membership and the staff. That they let me practice until almost dark. I get to play with membership and once, twice a week, which is great. And I've just have so much support back there that they let me do. They let me chase what I want to do and what my dreams. So I'm really fortunate.
Yeah, listen, it's one of those things where a lot of people say, well, he's a club professional, he's got to play a lot. No, become a club professional. You'll stop playing golf, and that's you need a membership that supports you. But I preface that because what is the big picture for you? Because you're obviously a very good competitive golfer. You've gone to Korn Ferry, second stage. What is it for you? How can you get in realizing the dream that you want to realize, which is playing professional golf on a weekly basis?
Yeah. The dream is always to play golf for a living. It has been ever since I was probably 12, 13 years old. I'm very, very fortunate and lucky to be a part of the PGA of America. I wouldn't be where I am without them. It's an awesome stepping stone. They have so many different avenues in the professional golf world, whether it's where you want to play golf, or you want to be a director of golf somewhere, teacher, whatever have you. But, the PGA of America gives a lot of support to their members of whatever avenue they want to do. So the goal is, and the dream is always to play golf for a living.
Tyler, I know you were mentioning to me in the break, you were up there in June. You've got a buddy who's on the professional staff, Jeff Kitty, who's a great pro. And so you had a chance to get a first blush look at it. How do you put together a game plan on a very busy golf course, 156 player field? It can be a slog out there. You want to have energy Thursday when the gun goes off. Take people through how you build your game plan for a major.
Yeah, sure. So after I get off here, I'm going to probably hit the range. I'll play 18 holes today. My caddy and I will really, really study the golf course, study the yardage book on the golf course and afterwards. And then tomorrow and Wednesday, we'll play 9 holes a day, and just really get comfortable with lines off tees and areas around the greens where we think we can score. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of how I went about it when I won the Club Pro last year at PGA Golf Club, and it worked there. So I'm going to try to stick with it.
Does getting the next opportunity and another big stage, does the stage seem more normal? Does it still seem grand and just overwhelming and sensory overload? Have you gotten to a point where showing up for these, of which you are doing now for the 5th time, is becoming more normal for you?
Yeah, absolutely. This will be my 11th PGA Tour event, 5th major. It's getting really comfortable. Obviously, I don't do it all the time, but it's getting to a point where, I know the processes, and I know how to, go navigate clubhouse, the locker room, all the media and fans. Yes, it's getting very comfortable for me, and very, very fortunate that I get to say that.
When you're at home at a great club, the Johns Island Club, how do you try to simulate competition? Look, playing with members and giving somebody 4 aside every single day, or probably more, to some of the better players. Yes, you shake your head. 4 aside, that's the club champion. Yeah. How do you try to simulate competition when you're away from competition for an extended period?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a very talented staff at Johns Island Club. We have the New Jersey Section Player of the Year there. We have the New Jersey Assistant Player of the Year there. We have a D1 collegiate golfer who won a national championship there on staff. Like, we have a very, very good staff, and playing games with them every week, multiple times a week is kind of how I prepare and stay competition ready. And it's a great staff, and I'm lucky to be a part of it. And I think Johns Island does a great job of bringing that talent in. It's such a big melting pot of PGA professionals that want to get into this game and grow in their profession. So honestly, that's how I prepare.
Before I let you go, I was just curious. Bandon has become, such a journey destination for not only Americans but people around the world to go there. And to their credit, they're hosting all these different events. They have a litany of USGA championships at all different levels, juniors, AMs, you name it. For you guys to get that stage, had you been there before?
I have not. No, it was my first time.
And what was your overall impression?
What an unbelievable setting! Holy smokes! I mean, it kind of like I saw pictures, videos, flyovers. It blew me away. It was unlike anything I've ever seen, and I've never been over to Scotland and Ireland to play true links golf, but it's about as close as you can get, I would imagine.
Yeah, but you've been to Oregon, and yeah. You're right. It's almost as close. Listen, have a great week. I know you don't. No matter how many of these you pile up, I know, first of all, it's performance that gets you in. The medalist last year, your 5th PGA Championship. Have a fantastic week. Thank you for taking a little time. Have a great day of preparation.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Tyler Collet, again, he's been one of the best players, and if you look at over the last 5-6 years, playing his way back in off of being the medalist by a double-digit margin last year. We're going to take a break. The man responsible for bringing back, as he said, kind of repainting the picture that Ross intended at Aronimink back in the late 20s, Gil Hanse. We had no idea where Dozer Cam is on a Monday morning. I know this is a home game for him, but he likes to play in the dirt. He's just a big kid. He will join me when we continue this Monday edition PGA Championship Week here on 5 Clubs after this. Back in on this Monday, PGA Championship Week, the 108th edition. Great to have you with us. 2 hours today. And the guy who's joining me now, when you see his images, it's not just the eye candy of seeing him. It's the aerials of all these holes that he and his great team, along with Jim Wagner and the K-Ben, are responsible for. We'd never know where Dozer Cam is, but we know that he will be home in Pennsylvania when this thing gets started, because he is responsible, like I said, with his team for the restoration of this Donna Ross golf course. He, of course, is Gil Hanse. Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Gary. I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. As somebody who grew up on Long Island like you did, you can live wherever you want because of the business of what it is that you do. I know you want wherever you live to be convenient, but you're not living in the Philadelphia area by accident. You love where you live. And I say that because the culture of Philadelphia golf, can you explain what it is to everybody?
Well, I think everybody knows the reputation of Philadelphia sports fans is very passionate, very excited about what and so I think Philadelphia golf has some of those characteristics. I think, we're very parochial. We're very proud of the fact that, a couple of things, great golf courses, right? I mean, when you think about the metropolitan area around Philadelphia, I think pound for pound, it's as good a golf region as any in the country. And like you said, I grew up in New York, so I'm familiar with that. But the Met golf area is massive, reaches 3 different states, et cetera, et cetera. We're pretty lucky that we've got, 2 of the greatest golf courses in the world in Pine Valley and Marion within 20 minutes of Center City. We're also pretty proud of the fact that, we had all these great William Flynn golf courses and Rolling Green and Philly Country Club and Huntington Valley and on and on. And I think the thing that we're most proud of is the Philadelphia School of Golf Architecture. right? I mean, it was the preeminent school of thought, the best golf architects. You had Crump and Wilson with their, Marion and Pine Valley. You had Tillinghast, you had George Thomas, you had William Flynn come along. I mean, and even, going forward, Tom Fazio comes from the air. So, I mean, there's a great heritage. Obviously, it's a very historic city this year, 250th anniversary, a lot of focus on Philadelphia. But I think from the standpoint of the traditions of the game, the history of golf architecture in America, so much has come out of Philadelphia. And it turned out, when I was working with Tom Doak, worked at Stonewall, and when we decided to start our own company in 1993, Tracy and I decided we really liked this area, and it's been home ever since.
You mentioned all those names, and I was saying it, at the top of the show, New York got a head start, but Philly answered back, and that was murderer's row. All those men. What is it about that area in terms of whether it's the topography, the soil? Why did that particular area lend itself to all of these great golf courses?
I think the topography is the primary factor. I mean, tons of ridges and valleys. You throw in the odd quarry here and there on a lot of golf courses just as a feature, of the landscape. Soil, I wish we had more sand like at Pine Valley. We don't. It's pretty heavy soil. In fact, it can be fairly rocky in spots and clayey. But I think the topography is ideally suited. As I mentioned, these ridges and valleys, and we're going to see it, this week at Aronimink, just a couple of nice ridges, a big valley that the golf holes sit in, and that lends itself to quality design, but also very walkable golf courses. I mean, you can get out there, you're not going to really struggle. Some courses have a little bit of topography to get up and down, but I think that lent itself, along with all these traditional characteristics. I mean, you had guys who were very invested not only in the design of courses, but in the playing of courses. Philadelphia gave birth to a lot of really good golfers. So from that standpoint, from the mindset, but also the physical aspects of the landscape around Philadelphia, I think that's why we're ideally suited.
Gil, there's a line associated with the work that you guys were embarking on at Aronimink, and it was about trying to repaint the picture of what Ross intended. Explain why you use those words.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we obviously need to be invested in thinking about how the golf course plays for the modern game, right? I mean, the golf course has changed dramatically since he designed it in 1921 or 1929. The game has changed dramatically. But I think what we'd love to do is make it fit today's game, but still stylistically and presentation-wise fit what Ross saw in the landscape and what he left behind. And I think if we can do our job where we're painting that picture so that when a member stands on a certain tee, for all intents and purposes, he's seeing or she's seeing exactly what Ross intended. And if we can do that, with Tillinghast or Rayner or any of the guys that we're fortunate to work on their golf courses, then I think we've accomplished our goal. We've checked the box that, listen, this is a beautiful landscape. Ideally, rightly or wrongly, whether he wanted, how he arranged it, it doesn't really matter. It's like, let's just focus on Ross and what he left behind. And obviously he was very proud of Aronimink.
You didn't get an archaeology degree, but you're awfully good at uncovering things. And I know that you used there was an aerial photographer that was very helpful as you started to learn and see these bunker clusters, and people are going to hear that term a fair amount. I think the epitome of it, Gil, is that the beauty of the 11th hole. There's 20 bunkers on that hole as you play up. It's not a particularly long hole. It's a devilish green complex. The clusters, explain those 109. By the way, 20 is half the total number of the bunkers at Augusta National, of which they have 40 over 18 holes. So explain the clusters.
Yeah, so we were very, we talk about passion. We had a gentleman named, his last name is Dolan, and he was an aerial photographer, I think, for the Liberty Aerial Company, and he was a golf nut. And he would go, he'd be hired, their company would be hired to go take photos of, say, the Delaware River waterfront or the Schuylkill River. And whenever he went up, he took an extra can of film and he photographed golf courses. I mean, he literally took photos when Bobby Jones was winning the Grand Slam aerially at Merion. So I think that passion has served all any golf course architect who's worked in the Philadelphia area. His work is all preserved down at the Hagley Museum in Delaware. So you can go down there and you can get these photographs. And so from the late 20s to the late 30s, the Philadelphia golf landscape is cataloged beautifully. And so what we saw was that the bunkers at Aronimink were arranged very differently from what Ross drew on his plan. And they were, instead of like one bunker, which was on the plan, he built 3 or 4 bunkers and clustered them in certain areas. Nobody knows why he made that change or who authorized the change. There's a video of Ross on site, so he obviously knew it was happening. And then when he returned 48 and made his quote about his masterpiece, obviously he felt great about what was created. So we were able to talk to the club and convince them that this was the right way to go. It's a lot like our work. I mean, Jim and I are very focused so much on design and build. And so, if in 50 years somebody's hoping to restore one of our golf courses, if we're so lucky, we would like for them to focus on what we built versus what we drew. And I think that's where our focus fell with it as it relates to Ross. And it's different for him. It's different scale wise. I think it ultimately sits really nicely in this big, broad landscape. And I think one of the things I'm most interested to watch is how do these clusters impact the playability of the bunkers? Instead of being in one bunker and having a lot of space and room around you and dealing primarily with getting over the face, now you might have a side hill lie. You might actually have the ball hang up on one of the dividers of the bunkers. You might actually have to play across a divider instead of that and just end the face. So I think there are a lot of different outcomes that can happen playability, but our focus was primarily on what we believe to be a restoration of what he built.
Gil, the weather when they had the BMW, I mean, it was a slog. It was kind of shocking they were even able to get it done. So scoring was very, very low. But if you had to give everybody a sense of what is the most, strident part of the golf course in terms of resistance to scoring, and where is the most gettable stretch?
Yeah, I think, obviously John Goslin, who's still the director of agronomy, did an amazing job back then getting the golf course and getting them through. And I had the good fortune of walking around it on Saturday, and it's in amazing condition. I mean, it's immaculate. And we're just hopeful. Little chances of rain here and there, but hopefully we can dodge those and really he can present the golf course and Kerry Haig can set up the golf course the way they want, which would be, I think, a terrific challenge for these guys. I think the finishing stretch is a challenge. I think 15, maybe tied for the longest par 4 in major championship history. I think then, 16 to me is the critical hole. From the standpoint of, it's a par 5, it's your last chance to score, because 17 is a demanding par 3 and 18 is 490 up the hill back to the clubhouse. So I think it's one of these stretches where with major championship pressure and their opportunities to score really are going to look at that area, I think, on 16 and then really hang on for the finish. I think the other areas where you might have some options, 13 is a very short par 4, potentially there's a tee that's been added that could set up to have it be drivable. So that's one spot on the golf course. And I think it's critical, obviously, to get off to a good start. I mean, one, your elevated tee, you're getting, those guys are probably going to hit very short irons into the green. And then same thing on 2. So I think the opening holes, you're going to want to see them, score to get their round going.
I was mentioning about, look, you have done a lot of work as it relates to USGA championship venues, but as it relates to this championship, starting here, and then next year it's original work at the East Course at PGA Frisco, and then Olympic, and then Baltusrol. Is there a commonality at all to all of this work, where I know that at the front of your mind is the membership, and of course Frisco is a resort property, that's most important to you, but is there any common thread to all of this work?
I mean, it's just restoration, right? I mean, it's the common thread is the research, it's the history, it's understanding, in the case of Ross, Tillinghast, and then the whole cast of characters at Olympic. So from that standpoint, the thread is there that, hey, we're trying to do the best we can with those. And I think that then provides enough differences between those. The presentation of Baltusrol is going to look a lot like Aronimink because they're northeastern, old classic parkland golf courses, but Olympic is going to look very different from that. And then obviously, as you mentioned, Frisco is going to look incredibly different from the other 3. And I think from our standpoint, we're just trying to do the best job we can with each particular course. And obviously we work with and talk to Kerry Haig about, distances and things that he wants to do, hole location.
All right. This is customary for anybody who has seen Gil on Dozer Cam. The reason, and again, I'm not a technological person. I rely on others to get me through the day. I promise you that somebody called him. That's what happens every time that happens. And you know who you are. And I can start giving a list of people who, why aren't you watching to know that he's in the middle of talking to me? Can't you wait until it's over? Because when you call him on his phone when he's on Dozer Cam, it means that he freezes up and we lose him. And then we have to reconnect, and you, the audience, are deprived him giving thoughtful answers to probably less thoughtful questions. All right, so we hope we'll get him back. The one thing I would say as well about Aronimink is that, I heard several players talk about that length is not going to be a huge factor. Length really isn't a factor no matter where they go. And I think that that's not necessarily entirely true. But to me, if the golf course can have some sense of bounce to it, that's when it's going to be the most interesting because the land has real tilt to it. So it means that you're going to have to craft shots, particularly off the tee, into sides of hills that is going to allow you to hold fairways. Gil, I said that the reason why we have these technological, these issues is that you're very popular and your friends can't wait until you get done with these interviews to think they can just call you arbitrarily. Am I right that somebody called you?
No, you were wrong. It was totally my fault. So I'm sitting in the bulldozer here, and you know where I am. And
yes.
I turned off the machine so you wouldn't have any background noise, and it's like a terrarium in here. And my phone died because of it was the emergency. It was too hot.
All right, I wanted to blame somebody else, so I was wrong. Before I let you go, a couple other things. When I was there last fall, and it was the first time I had been there, I was really taken by the vibrancy of the membership, a very, really passionate golf culture, but a country club setting where all the other, whether it's a pool complex or platform tennis, is that it's where people go to really recreate in full. But here was the thing that I was like, wait, I don't think I've ever played a golf course where the 9th and 18th holes, not only are they parallel, I've experienced that before, but both play to the front door of the clubhouse, the front door. Where else does that happen?
I'm trying to think of Winged Foot.
It's not the front door.
Sort of. No, that's true. No, you're right. It is. It's really lovely. And I think, hats off to the PGA of America. They've basically left the front of the clubhouse uncovered with hospitality. So I think from that standpoint, we've really, you're going to be, as they come up either 9 or 18, you're going to have the clubhouse in its full glory behind it. And it's a beautiful structure. It really is. So I think, it's the quintessential finish, right? I mean, you climb to the clubhouse, you set the clubhouse up on a hill where you're overlooking the property. And I think you've got all of those elements here. And certainly 9 being a massive par 5 and 18 now being a significant, 490 yards up the hill. I think we're set up for really good finishes on both those holes.
Yeah, no doubt. The distinctive color of the stone, the roof line, all of it is really, really neat. Last thing, when it comes to players, you like engagement. You like to know people's thoughts about things. Do you have time to try to get out there to get feedback, get thoughts, give answers of questions asked of you from players in this field before Thursday?
Not really. I'm not sure they want to listen to me anyway. I think, they're going to, I think like any of the courses that we work on, I think this will certainly be very, very true next year at Frisco and certainly on any of these great old classic courses. They reward careful study. I mean, Rory obviously spent a ton of time prepping for Augusta, and that obviously paid off. And I think the players who walk into Aronimink and have given some thought and some time, or maybe have some experience, having played back there during the BMW Championship, I think they should be rewarded for their study that they put in, the time and the effort. I'd be really surprised if it's a player who just kind of shows up today or tomorrow and plays, 18 holes and thinks they can figure out that golf course. they're gonna have to observe what Mr. Ross left behind and what we tried to polish off for them.
Well, listen, I'll let you get back to work. You're awfully kind. You know how much we value the time. Look forward to seeing you later this week.
I'll look forward to it. Thanks, pal.
Okay, there is Gil Hanse, dozer cam. It was not a friend calling him. It was just a cage heating up to where it just overheated. Those are winning words presented by Century Insurance. When it comes to your business insurance, evaluate it with Century. They want to be right by you. When we continue, we open up the club. We still have Taylor Zarzour. We still have Mark Brooks. We still have Trevor Immleman. We still have Picks and Keith Stewart. We're with you until 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Back right after this.
It's the preparation, the movements that become second nature. Precision matters. This is performance refined. Peter Millar.
And with that, I just think about Brandon Snedeker crossing the line for the 10th time. He has proudly worn the crown for decades, really, since the beginning of his career. Peter Millar, yes, when you walk into every shop, you look at these tables that have all this apparel, and they've got everything you need. But it's when you leave the shop, and it's every other aspect of your life. It is where luxury meets performance. It is the premier lifestyle brand. That's why this sport coat, which Scottie Scheffler has one of these because he won Club 5 last year. And so with that, why don't we get to the club? Because when you have these signature series events, there can be movement. And everybody knew that it was just, he was sitting on the doorstep. He was sitting there at that velvet rope, kind of like, the ladies were in Knocked Up. And the guy's going, I can't let you in, Kristoffer Reitan. Come on. He didn't say he was too old. You know the lines, you know the scene. Kristoffer Reitan, you're in the club, man, and you have earned your way into the club. He wins the Truist Championship, but beyond that, in terms of whether it's a team event or not, finished tied for second at the Zurich Classic, making cuts, whether it be the Players or the Masters, and even though he shot 77 at Augusta National on Sunday, he's earned his way. Open up the rope and let him in. At number 4, this is a guy who was the only 3-time winner on the PGA Tour and didn't have a particularly good week at Quail Hollow. But nonetheless, Matt Fitzpatrick with those 2 wins, not to mention the second at the Players as well, the playoff win over Scottie Scheffler at the RBC Heritage. He's in the club. I mean, how good do you have to be? And he's number 4. At number 3, he's the Masters champion. He's only got 6 starts, and even though he was not in contention, even though I thought he was set up heading into the weekend and then just had one of those days. Awful chipping, short pitching, putting day on Saturday. But I thought that his iron play and his driving of the golf ball, he just was taking lines at Quail Hollow that were ungodly. And that's why I think that he's knocked the rust off, and he is going to be a load to deal with at Aronimink, and that is Rory McIlroy at number 3. At number 2, he is the number 1 player in the world, and it is hard for him to not be in the top 5. He's got 3 seconds. He's got the win. He's not currently number 1 in the FedEx Cup standings, but he's having an excellent putting season. And Scottie Scheffler is your defending champion of the PGA. He's number 2 in our Club 5. And at number 1 is Cam Young. He, like Rory, had one of those days. Rory had it on Saturday. Cam Young had it on Sunday. Atrocious putting, but he still was in the top 10. And he has won the Players, he won the Cadillac, he's got a host of other top 10s as well. He was right there to the bitter end at the Masters. He's number 1. Now, that is not necessarily 5 guys that you think you're going to be, streaking to KFC at 3 a.m. They're professionals, man, but they're still in the club. Frank the Tank will do the streaking to KFC if it's still open. Let me just say this before we get to the top of the hour, because Taylor Zarzour is going to join me, as is Mark Brooks, who won this championship, as is Trevor Immleman, who has history, not exactly, it's great history, because he made his way to the end of an important championship when he was a Ute. But I'm just wondering, and I'll ask him what he remembers most about Aronimink when he got his first look at it when he was just a junior golfer. They're with me in the second hour. If you look at this season, And even though Kristoffer Reitan, it's a more modest trend line, that has really been the story of men's professional golf this year, is that I'm not saying you could see Kristoffer Reitan coming in terms of him winning, but he's been building. And that's why I get to some other players like Ludwig Åberg, who, despite having, the forgettable Sunday at the Players Championship, he shot 66 yesterday, and he was my pick, and he finished tied for 8th in Charlotte. 5 of his last 6 starts, his worst result is 8th. Now, the one thing that he has got to get solved is a more reliable putter, because his putting numbers were not good. But everything else, he's got his toolkit almost in full bloom. And there are others as well. Tommy Fleetwood is another one. And Tommy was close. And I don't know necessarily that I would put Justin Thomas right there, on line 1, but he'd be close. And that's why I think when you look at this field, the reason why there have been so many guys who have either made this their first major, like Justin Thomas did in 2017, and then he backed it up in 2022, is that this is the best back half of like the second level of any of the majors. You see a lot of that in the Open. You see a lot of that in the U.S. Open, because a lot of players who do not have exemptions because it's either 50 or 60, they go through final qualifying, then they get in. This is the deepest. All right, we've got another hour to go. Taylor Zarzour, Mark Brooks, Trevor Immleman, Keith Stewart. Hour 2 of 5 Clubs coming up. Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. Woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Welcome back. We are still live. That's right. Hour 2 on this Monday. It's PGA Championship week. We will step out of the way after today because the great franchise it is live from, they will take over and they will have you as prepared as humanly possible to take in this 108th PGA Championship. We'll be back next Monday. Full recap for us. But no matter whether it's Monday or whatever hour it is, it's always Century Insurance. We appreciate their great support. We appreciate their investment in golf. First Tee, USGA, PGA Tour, and right here at 5 Clubs. But their business is business insurance. Evaluate yours with them. All right, joining me now, he's already done a radio program. He arrived back to his cushy lair in Nashville, Tennessee after midnight last night. And I don't know how many hours of broadcasting he'll do this week, but he will ask for more because that's what he does. He, of course, host of The Starter. He's Taylor Zarzour. Good morning.
Good morning. I've spent a lot of time decorating this apartment in the last year. Actually, I'll be moving out of it here in the next couple of weeks to something a little more permanent, which I'm excited about. But it's always good to be with you the week of a major, G.
Yep, I know your tax attorney is also excited about you moving to something else as well. We do this, especially when it's a major week. We kind of move on. As somebody who's a member at Quail Hollow and as somebody who has seen really a diverse list of champions starting from the beginning, David Toms was obviously a very accomplished player, Joey Sindelar. We can go through the whole roll call. Just put a bow on the week for me if you would.
I just loved how the golf course looked yesterday, how competitive it was, all the different possibilities we had at the top of the board with some really big names. And you have to give credit to this kid, Reitan, from Norway. Chris played beautiful golf yesterday as everybody is thinking about, well, what if Ricky Fowler does this for the first time in 14 years? Cam Young might be the best player in the world right now. Justin Thomas, we've seen him win here in Charlotte before. Tommy Fleetwood, will this be his second American victory? Alex Fitzpatrick has made so many fans in the United States in the last few weeks. Your mind is racing with all these opportunities. Nikolai Højgaard, maybe this is his first PGA Tour win. No one's thinking about Chris Reitan, and our friend Ron Green Jr. of Global Golf Post just nudges me about an hour before it's over and says, what if Kristoffer Reitan wins? I don't think anybody had really thought about that until we got about to around the water until about 14 or so. And man, his putter was just outstanding in those last few holes. But I thought just as much as Reitan was the story, so was the golf course and the way it looked. And just that incredible amphitheater around the 18th green. I love Brian Rolapp and the PGA Tour's new initiative to bring all the fans surrounding the 18th green for a lot of these tournaments. I think that's a really cool thing. And it was powerful yesterday to be there at Quail Hollow. But the membership, Truist, everybody involved in the tournament should be awfully proud.
Yeah, and Kristoffer Reitan didn't take a pound of flesh off of him from the Green Mile, and others did, and that is always part of why somebody wins that trophy. The storylines this week, there's always plenty, and this is a 156-player field. And it's obviously deep. I was just mentioning kind of the 51 or 61 to 100. All these guys are very, very accomplished, and we know a lot of them. Give me your top storylines heading into this week. How would you describe them? How would you kind of thread them into the ether to start the week?
You know, we don't have the obvious one, Gary, that we typically would right now. It's been a little strange, just the different storylines that we have bounced from. But I would say that the top one, for me at least, is Rory and Scottie. Can we get the two of them dueling it out for a major championship? They finished first and second at the Masters, but it didn't really feel like it was a duel between those two. And are we primed for that here at Aronimink? That would be the top thing. The live players and their future, you know, there's going to be a ton of questions about Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, Joaquin Niemann, Tyrrell Hatton, some of these top players that are such extraordinarily talented players. And you want to see those guys compete week in, week out with the aforementioned McIlroy and Scheffler. That'll be a big story. The favorite story of mine is Philadelphia. As you know so well, I think professional golf, I think professional sports works in Philadelphia. And I think that city deserves a tournament every year. They did such a great job with Philly Cricket Club at the Truist Championship last year, and the turnout was extraordinary. I would imagine we're going to have a raucous environment Saturday and Sunday, especially if we get some of those big names around the leaderboard. So that's the one that I'm most excited to see this week. But we don't have the obvious needle-moving storyline going in, which is okay. That means something's going to happen that we're totally unprepared for. That's the thing I love most about sports is all this talk that we're going to do the next few days isn't going to mean anything by the time we get to Thursday.
No, in 2019, which was the first year it was in May, I just happened to be in the room when Koepka deconstructed the field, whether it was that major or any major, of how many players could win. It was fascinating. And he was paired with Tiger, and he knew it, and he went out and shot 63 that first day. It wasn't Joe Namath or Mark Messier, but he called his shot, and he answered to it. How do you describe this major in terms of, is it the most competitive because the most accomplished in terms of depth? And with that, does that make it harder to win? How would you describe the PGA, not its brand, but in terms of how many players can win as it relates to the back half of kind of the upper crust, whereas the U.S. Open, the Open, you have qualifiers, and many of them play competitive professional golf on various tours. How would you describe this major in terms of hardest, most competitive?
Yeah, I think that it is the hardest, most competitive. I think that you just did it right there. I think that Kerry Haig and the PGA of America does an outstanding job setting up the golf course each year and setting up what turns out almost every year to be a thrilling championship. And I would expect the same thing at Philly Cricket Club. Kerry and his staff have had all year since the beginning of 2026 to get ready for this golf course and have had full access to it. So I think that they do a fantastic job setting up the championship. And if you look at it, typically there's only a handful of guys, as you just mentioned with Koepka, going back, what was that, 7 years ago now to Bethpage. Typically, it's only a handful of guys that really have a chance to win this thing. It's not, we don't get an obscure winner here, or someone that's just completely out of left field like we might get at, as you said, the U.S. Open or the Open Championship. But I think it's the hardest one to win because of how tough the field is. And typically it's somebody from the top 10, top 20 in the world that wins it. But the first thing I think of in terms of competition is just how terrific of a job they do setting up the golf course. Identity-wise, I know you're going to go there, Gary. that's a different thought altogether about promoting this event. I think it's extremely challenging when you have 4 major championships for all 4 of them to cut through each year. Clearly, the PGA of America is the one that's, I think, struggling out of the 4 right now to cut through. And I give them a lot of credit. They're asking a lot of tough questions to each other about how they do a better job of that moving forward.
So let me ask you about Rory, because he's only played 6 events on the PGA Tour, and he's also really the only guy at that level who plays a lot of fall golf. So I get it. I get the pacing. And it's also not new for him to not play between the Masters, or only play one time between the Masters and the PGA since the PGA moved to May. Give me your overall synopsis of what you saw from him in Charlotte.
Well, first of all, I'm really enjoying all of the airings of you and Rory playing golf here on Golf Channel in the last few days, and I'm a little concerned about your wedge play.
Don't be.
And Rory
it's
and I,
exactly
Rory
what
and
you think it is. Poor.
Rory and I did talk about that as we were walking on Wednesday during the Pro-Am at Quail Hollow. The other things that we talked about, Gary, made me think that he is as comfortable in his own skin right now as I can remember. You think a year ago, he's trying to think about what he's supposed to do with himself after the Masters, and he was a bit prickly after the Masters. He is really jovial right now, in good spirits and just comfortable in his own skin. I think he's in a very good place personally and professionally, so that stood out. He had a lot to say about Aronimink this week. I think that he is extremely confident about his game going in there. He talked about the longest par 4 in the world, the 15th hole, which is going to get a lot of talk this week at Aronimink. But I think he's in very good spirits. He did reference his schedule, too. He said, I've played way too much golf the last couple of years. And he said, moving forward, I need to protect myself a little bit better. I need to make sure I'm mentally fresh for the major championships. He was telling me, walking on the 9th hole at Quail Hollow last week, he said, I think I have about 10 years to still play at this level. And if that's the case, then I need to make sure my game is peaking for the major championships. I can't be fried in playing too much golf. So you referenced only 6 starts so far on the PGA Tour. I don't think you're going to see a ton more. I think that you're only going to see Rory here at Philly this week, the Memorial, U.S. Open, and then maybe a couple of playoff events. I wouldn't be surprised if Rory takes one of those off. So I only think we're going to see Rory play a few more times in the United States before, as you referenced, he plays in Europe in the fall. Winning another one of those titles is very important to him. He wants to be the best champion ever on the DP World Tour, winning the most championships. So he does. He has some other things to check off of his list. But make no mistake, winning the PGA Championship this week, winning the first 2 legs of the calendar Grand Slam, that's something that absolutely has Rory McIlroy's attention. We were wondering about motivation last year, Gary. I don't think that that's a question right now at all.
Yeah, he's got your attention. I think we may see his name locked up with yours when we give our picks before we're done. Very quickly, give me 2 names, not necessarily top of mind, that you have, your intuition tells you they may factor. Who are they?
Well, Harris English would be one. He was so good in a couple of major championships last year with a couple of top 4 finishes at Quail Hollow and then at the Open Championship. This guy hits it a mile, and he hits it a mile in the air, and I think that's going to work for him this week at Philly Cricket Club. And then, maybe this is just because of his experience at Aronimink, but there's got to be a Keegan Bradley moment in here somewhere in 2026. Why not have it at Philly in the Northeast where he's so beloved? I know that he's a guy that plays off of emotion, plays off of good vibes. I think he's going to have a ton of those this week. So those are just 2 names that I'm considering on my list after the aforementioned first name on my list.
By the way, I've waited my whole life to needle a Georgia Bulldog grad about Vandy stealing a top prospect, as I did with Harris about the quarterback.
You did.
You better believe I did. I said I've waited 40 years to do this. It was fantastic. It was as enjoyable as I thought it was going to be. Hey, listen, thank you. I know it was a late night. Look forward to being with you this week.
You're the best. Thank you, Gary.
All right, there is Taylor Zarzour, host of The Starter. You're going to start your day with him every day, 7 Eastern on Channel 92. We take a break when we continue. He won this championship just a mere 30 years ago. Mark Brooks will join me. He's part of this big global broadcast of this major. He's with me. When we continue on a Monday, live on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, it's PGA Championship Radio right after this. Back in live on this Monday on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92. Channel 92 will be PGA Championship Radio, so wall-to-wall coverage there. And, of course, on Golf Channel live from starting today, the tremendous franchise that has you covered up. And right now, I believe Brandel is in a hermetically sealed booth because when he's unleashed, he's got to budget his energy because when the light goes on, nobody can do it better. The guy knows it as well as anybody. His old teammate at the University of Texas won this championship in 1996. Mark Brooks, am I not right about Brandel that he is put away when the lights go off? Because nobody can pontificate at that level with the eloquence and the lethal quantitative data and historical references unless they are put away for 20 hours out of the day.
I totally agree. And I don't know. I don't know what he does with the other 30 minutes of his day because I know he's doing research.
That's right.
He's reading. He's researching. Yes.
He's
the cross-reference king.
He had to be so pedantic in college. I mean, would you just get in your suite and go, please, let's not argue about what's better as far as delivery pizza, but he would make you relent, wouldn't he?
I don't know. You've got to know me. I'm not going to relent very easily myself. So.
That is true. That is true. You know, Mark, having won this championship in 96, and I'm thinking about this championship and when they started to take, whether it's some chances, started to be a little bit more pragmatic about sites. When you look at the gamut that this championship has run, whether it's the historic sites, taking the chance on a Kemper Lakes and Oak Tree, which, didn't have championship, history. And I can go through the list and identifying Whistling Straits, but then dotting it with places like Baltusrol and Southern Hills, where you almost won a U.S. Open. What is your overall thought on the PGA's vision for this championship locations through the last 3 decades?
Good question. I'm not privy to their long-term vision. I'll say this, Valhalla, where I won, and I'm just going to use it as an example, not to toot my horn, but, it's created a history of its own. It's had really close championships. You've had Tiger, Rory, and Xander win there, and the U.S. won a Ryder Cup, which is a rare feat nowadays, on that property. I got lucky and got in there before anybody knew the track, and they haven't altered it that much. So this is going to be out on a limb, but we all live in let's call it a finite timeline. So when they played the first, let's pick a course, the first U.S. Open at Colonial in 1941. That was going out on a limb. That was a brand new golf course. It was barely open. It's not anymore. So it's like, I think you understand my point. It's like, if you live long enough, a place can become iconic.
Yes.
So number one, you got to pick a place that has the ability to become iconic. So it has to have great bones, all the qualities that we need. And as we well know, today's golfer, professional, his skill set is quite a bit different than it was 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago.
No, you're right.
The equipment, the players, all that.
Yeah, it's, a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this, we go, how long is this one going to be? And how much yardage have they added? In your view, having played in a lot of these up until 2015 and having won it, what has changed about the examination beyond just adding new tees over the last, let's say, decade and a half?
Well, it's been difficult. If you grow the rough, like everybody screams now, they go, leave the golf ball alone. Let's just, I won't name names, but, grow more trees. narrow the fairways, grow the rough up. Well, when they do that, the guys go nuts over the rough being too high, or the fairways, we can't hit the fairways. I need a thread, needle and a thread to hit a fairway. So it's pretty difficult to do. And as Taylor, I was listening to an earlier segment, as Taylor mentioned, besides flexing how many times he played with Rory lately, and I'm with him all week, so I can give him some grief. There's no other thing they could do except lengthen the golf courses. I mean, to be honest, you could I guess just start cutting lakes so guys can't, they'd have to lay up on things and have longer approach shots. But to your point about length, so 1928, Aronimink was about 6,600 yards.
Yep.
It opened on Memorial Day in 1928 on this site. It was 6,600 yards. They've added 800 yards, and I know that's 100 years. So, that's not very many yards per year if you added. However, this is considered a relatively short golf course at around 7,400 yards. They need another probably 400 to get around 7,800. And the reason I say that, it's the clubs they play as approach shots, and of course where the bunkers end up sitting, on the fairway, off the fairways. But it's the approach shots that's the big deal. The less club they hit in, the more spin they have. Generally speaking, they have way more control. I mean, a lofted club goes straighter, so easier to control. I think that's really the thing. And Augusta has done that methodically and really attempted to. And I mean, I think they're like, we're out of room, guys. We got to do something here. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm pontificating.
No, but that's, you're talking about that length of time, and I think back, I remember exactly what the number was yardage-wise when Ben Crenshaw won the Masters in '84. It was 6,905 yards. And we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 added in 40 years, when you're talking about 800 added over the course of essentially 100 years. This championship now being in May, and with the players in March, your career, you were allergic to weeks off. 33 starts, 31 starts, 32 starts. You pegged it. So you were not somebody who was unaccustomed to playing a lot of golf. Now, if guys play 22, 23 times, like, wow, what a hearty schedule. Is this cadence proper in your mind? Players, and then every month, and then playoffs in August? Do you like it?
Well, they swing a lot faster.
Yes.
I'm not gonna fake it or sugarcoat it. They're in better shape than we are overall. I mean, guys were in good golf shape. Again, let's go back 30, 40 years. Guys were in really good golf shape. Man, it's just, there's so much that's changed. I don't even know where to start. But you brought up May. I was probably on the fence, and I think the Olympics had something to do with it. The playoffs, trying to get golf over with before NFL started was why they moved to May. I mean, I've got it down here. I'm like, first of all, I think May is wrong for this championship. We've already touched on the iconic venues. So go back to August, and, it could be the first week of August, first one of those between the, start on between the 4th and the 11th in that range. I'm going to ask you a question. You think it's harder to win the PGA Championship in May or August? Early August. What happens to the field? What happens? We don't know who to pick right now. We're not very deep into the PGA, into the season. So I think August builds, and as the moniker was Glory's last shot.
It had a real identity.
He had won a major. Yeah. So it brings the spotlight. And of course, I'm from Texas. We're not going to play many. We shouldn't be playing many PGAs there, unfortunately, because of the weather. So we get to go to the Midwest, Northeast, even California, where the weather's good in August, or more tolerable anyway. And I would do that immediately, personally. I would get back to August, whatever it takes. So
yeah, the challenge is, now having Frisco as an anchored site, you've made this long-term commitment, and they haven't even hosted it there yet, and that'll be next year. And then the idea of Frisco in August, I had a furnace in my basement when I was a kid. I'd rather climb in that than go to Frisco in August. Am I right?
You are absolutely right. And now the solution is a high-level Tier 1 signature event at PGA Frisco that has meaning.
Okay.
Not a PGA Championship. That's
right.
a very simple solution to a wonderful property or big property. I know the club pros are, they're not thrilled with what's going on necessarily behind the scenes, but I think I would play that thing and pick a month. I mean, move the Byron Nelson over there and reimagine the Byron Nelson at PGA Frisco. They've had trouble finding a home for the Nelson. It's started moving around. And I know they redid TPC Craig Ranch, but what a better, no better spot than PGA Frisco for the Byron Nelson. It's right off a tollway. Anyway, that's my solution.
All
and
right,
PGA just have to swallow their pride.
Let me ask you last thing. If Rory and Scottie Scheffler, whether it's this championship and you're getting ready to go out to the golf course, but all things considered, if they're in full flight, toolkit, intellectually, psychologically, spiritually, whose would you take over the course of the 4 different examinations over the next couple of years?
You're making me pick a winner now?
No, not this week. I'm asking you.
I don't mean this week, but over
Yes, the production of Scottie Scheffler or Rory, if their toolkits, which includes their minds, state of mind, and all the requisite skill that they each have, who would you take for the balance of 26 and 27 in the majors? You will take Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, I'm a little biased there, but yes. And there's no disparaging.
Of course not.
Rory McIlroy's game. However, if you go piece by piece, driving, iron play, long irons, mid irons, short game, putting, they're both complete players, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Scottie Scheffler wears Rory out from 100 yards in with the wedges. Wears him slick.
Okay.
And I think that's a great separator. And so I'm picking Scottie because of his short game. And don't forget, he's younger.
He is younger.
Scottie's younger.
Yep, no question, no doubt. Hey, listen, thank you for carving out the time. I look forward to seeing you up there this week.
I will. I'll look you up. Thank you.
All right, 30 years of age, he had the blowing blonde locks in Louisville, Kentucky when he won that PGA in a playoff. All right, we take a break. He had spiked blonde hair. It was a phase for Trevor Immleman. He's long over it. He, of course, the Masters champion, lead analyst for CBS. He joins me next, live here on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio. It is 5 Clubs on a PGA Championship Monday.
It's the preparation, the movements that become second nature. Precision matters. This is performance refined. Peter Millar.
They certainly have refined that aspect of what you need to get when it comes to playing golf with Peter Millar, but it's about everything you wear off the golf course with their retail stores and at petermillar.com. It is truly where luxury meets and matches performance. All right, joining me now, very kind, late night for him, traveling from Charlotte up to Philadelphia, a lead analyst for CBS, Masters champion. He is Trevor Immleman. My friend, good morning. Thank you for taking the time.
Hey, morning, Gary. It's great to join you. You know, when you texted me a few days ago, you're like, would you mind coming on the show? I was like, man, as soon as I figure my travel plans out, I'll let you know. So I'm so happy that we found this time to have a chat together.
Listen, I appreciate it. I was kind of teasing you coming on saying, you know, that Trevor's got his own history at Aronimink. And I don't know if you had a mop of hair back in that time, the 97 U.S. Junior Amateur Final. You lose 1 down to Jason Allred. I'm sure it's not a bad memory. I mean, it's a hell of a run at a USGA championship. What do you remember about Aronimink?
Well, I'm hoping to get over that loss by the end of this week, Gary. You know, it's been a couple of decades, but still.
Yes.
No, I have great memories. I mean, it was such a brilliant week for me to play in my first USGA event and first time playing in the US Junior, and it was just such a wonderful event to come to. The golf course was like something I had never really seen before, and the opportunity to compete against so many great players on a historic venue like that, where Gary Player had won a major championship.
Yes.
Really was something that I was looking forward to. And, you know, the week just got better and better and better. I stayed with this wonderful host family out here, the trainer family who were members at the club. And their son, David, ended up caddying for me for the week. He was a good junior golfer. And so it was just a marvelous week, you know, other than the bogey up 18 to lose one down. All the other memories are really fond, and I'm looking forward to, you know, from my own perspective in my life, writing another cool chapter here this week with this PGA Championship.
You know, Trevor, this major, it's been played in every month over the course of its history, with the exception of 3 months. And so it's moved around, and now it's got this May date. And they've been more liberal about where they'll take it, whereas Augusta National, we know where we're going every April. The U.S. Open, as you know, has tightened the belt on their rota. And the Open Championship really kind of has a tight rota as well. What's your view of trying to, whether it's handicap the field or determine how good the venue is, if there are more of them, as is the case with the PGA?
Well, I think, you know, this is a hot topic of debate for everybody, you know, since the date change moved from August. But I think it's worked out quite well so far. And just forecasting, you know, touch wood, just forecasting the weather this week, the forecast looks really great, particularly for the weekend, as somebody's trying to lift that awesome Wanamaker trophy. And so I think this is going to be marvelous. And you look at some of the venues coming up, it really does fit in well, you know, starting with the Players and the Masters and now the PGA, and you work on to the US Open and the Open. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to this one for quite some time, for a couple of the reasons I mentioned already. Got such great memories here and the history with Gary Player. So it's going to be an awesome week. And the other thing that I'm really looking forward to is a lot of the stars are coming in here in good form.
Yes.
And, you know, we've probably got 10 or 15 guys that are really getting their games in shape. And I'm just hoping that some of the rain we're going to have here early on in the week before the sun comes out is not going to affect the course too much. We can get it nice and firm and fast. I mean, to me, that's what Aronimink is all about, is these amazing green complexes. And that'll give Kerry Haigh the opportunity to really tuck these hole locations and test these guys on approach and around the green.
You know, you mentioned the top players, the form that they have. Scheffler, between the Masters and this week, did it his way. Cam Young, similarly. Rory, the one start, which is not new. He's done this a fair number of times in this decade, where whatever the result is at Augusta National, it's usually Charlotte, and then the next hop is the PGA. With Cam Young, and I mean, he had a horrible, you said it on the air, just an atrocious putting day. The gas in his tank, is that anything that needs to be examined as he begins on Thursday?
You know, I wasn't concerned until yesterday. On Saturday night, if we had done this call on Saturday night, and you asked me what was going to happen on Sunday, I would have picked Cam Young.
Me too.
He was just looking so good. He played so brilliantly. He's been in full control for months now. And the thing that let him down yesterday has actually been his weapon over the last year or so. He's been putting the ball so beautifully. And all of a sudden, when they ratcheted the speeds up at Quail Hollow Club yesterday, I mean, those greens were rapid, Gary. I mean, it was 13 plus on the stem, and it was sunny, and there was, you know, hardly any humidity out there. And it was so quick. And he just lost his touch. And so I was a little concerned after seeing that yesterday, but hopefully over these next few days now, he can rest and recover. I mean, from a confidence standpoint, I don't think yesterday's round is going to knock him too much. I mean, he knows exactly how good he is, and he's one of the favorites this week. So, I'm not all that concerned with him. I still think he's got a great shot to win here.
How about Rory? Give me your overall assessment of his week in Charlotte as the lone prep competitively for Aronimink.
Yeah, look, never concerned with Rory because he's just got so much experience and so many great experiences as well in massive tournaments. You look at his major championship run throughout his career. It's quite remarkable, really. Even when he had the dry spell for 10 years when he didn't win, he had a ton of opportunities. What I was really happy to see for him last week is he was driving the ball really, really well. We're used to the power, but he started hitting it a bit more accurately off the tee. He has made the reconnaissance trip up here, so he knows exactly what to expect. And, to no surprise of anybody, I expect him to have a great shot with 9 holes to go on Sunday.
Yeah, I made a point of walking, with him each day. He drove the ball. And some lines, as you know, at Quail Hollow, I mean, his line on 2 all 4 days, it's just absurd.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It really is. It really is. I mean, he's just taken it over the middle of that stand of trees up the left-hand side, and he's got 60 or 70 yards to the green. I mean, to have that kind of weapon, we're seeing it more and more now with the technology changes and enhancements and these guys being great athletes, just being able to pummel the ball and hit up on it and launch it a mile in the air. But, that's like another gear where he can just take it up over those trees and really cut a decent length par 4 into a drive and a chip.
Let me ask you before I let you go, all these players have teams and they have an express intent to improve that player's performance. And I get it. Performance on a week-to-week basis, but do you think any of this, and I mean this and it's nuanced, inhibits winning? That all of this is like maximizing performance, but ultimately the goal is to win. Do you think some of it can be a little counterproductive?
Gosh, that's such an interesting question. Have we got about an hour longer to discuss this? It's so interesting, Gary, because I saw you had Mark Brooks on earlier, and you think of some of the other great players throughout history who just did it on their own with gut feel and instinct. And they were remarkable, marvelous players that won countless times. I mean, you go back to the Sneeds and the Hogans and the players and Nicklaus and all the legends of the game that we all know of. But what's interesting nowadays, it's kind of like Formula One with these guys. They've got so much data at their fingertips and so many ways to test and measure things, whether it be launch monitors, and how far they're hitting the ball and exactly where their path is in or out, or what their rest and recovery is and how their sleep patterns are. I mean, the data at their fingertips is just incredible. And right now they believe that's the thing that is giving them the edge. And you know better than anybody, I mean, in sports and in golf in particular, there's so many great players and the margins are so tight at the top. And as an athlete, excuse me, and as a great player, you're just looking for that little edge that, at the very least, mentally makes you think that you've got a leg up on the competition. So, maybe we need another 5 years or so before we decide if this is actually the best path or not.
Last thing, when you won the Masters, and you said something I think is useful for everybody about culture and about where you grew up. And that you got attention based on doing special things, and it was something that was earned. Did you earn more confidence after you won that? Did you naturally believe? Did your belief system get amplified and almost like you had a layer of Kevlar after doing that?
Well, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because you've proven to yourself that you have what it takes on the grandest stage at the highest level to get it done. And to beat the best players and to fulfill your dreams, so to speak. I mean, when you take up this game at a young age and you want to be able to have opportunities in major championships and you dream of winning them, and when you get it done, it's kind of like a feather in your cap. But what you need to be careful of is the expectations after that. I mean, the game is so fickle and so delicate that, we've seen wonderful players over the years lose their games overnight. And that's what I mean by delicate. You know, you've got to guard that confidence and that belief system in yourself with everything you have. And that's the interesting part. If you go back to the previous question regarding teams, I mean, nobody can really, they can talk to you about it, but they can't really help you do it. That's got to come from deep down in your heart and your soul. And it's just another reason why we love this sport so much. I mean, it's so nuanced and so layered. And this week we get to write another chapter in this great game's history here at Aronimink at the PGA Championship.
Yep, in a great golf town, at a wonderful, vibrant, passionate club about the game of golf, as you mentioned at Aronimink. Hey, listen, I know it was tight windows for you. I'm glad that you were able to sneak me through. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Yeah, I love your show. Thanks. It's great to join you, Gary. Have a great week.
Thank you. That is Trevor Immleman, a Masters champion, and you will hear his analysis all week on CBS for the 108th PGA. We come back, update the standings picks as well before we're done on this Monday, our getaway day, because it is a major week. Live from all week, starting tomorrow morning, and of course tonight as well with Rich, Brandel, Paul, and the gang. We're back right after this.
I can hear you. I can hear you, Todd.
We're back on this Monday, and again, a reminder, we are done for the week. At the top of the hour, live from the PGA Championship, the wonderful team with full, comprehensive coverage all week long, and of course in prime time with Rich, Brandel, Paul, Todd, and everybody else who does such an amazing job of giving you this great coverage, not only until it starts, but throughout the week, live from the PGA Championship here on Golf Channel. Of course, PGA Championship Radio on Sirius XM Channel 92. All right, joining me now, it was nice to have him with me this past week in Charlotte. He's made his way home. He will be at Aronimink, of course. He is the overlord of Read the Line. He is Keith Stewart. My friend, good morning.
Gary, good morning. And I sit up on the 18th tee at Aronimink Golf Club, just waiting for this championship to take place.
Yes, well done. The clubhouse has never looked better in the background. Before we get to our own picks and update the standings, give people some angles about this championship. What stands out from a handicapping standpoint?
Gary, it's 5 clubs, so I'm going to give you 5 secrets. The first one, we're looking at a par 70 scorecard this week, which means you're getting extra par 4s. Get those par 4 scorers on your betting card. Number 2, a lot of talk about the weather. Will the golf course play firm? Will it play soft? Well, we didn't get much rain for that storm they kept talking about for Sunday, Monday. So the biggest question for me is that if it doesn't rain Wednesday, the water table's low here, it's going to be firm. Number 3, 2018 BMW Championship. The guys hit on average 78% of their greens in regulation. These greens are huge, 8,200 square feet. Just to put that in perspective, Quail Hollow, do those greens look big? They're 6,800 square feet. You're going to have to talk about proximity this week and not just approach. The fourth one, with big greens, you got to be able to putt. When Keegan won here in 2018, nearly 60% of his strokes gained for the week came on the putting greens. And the fifth one, 180 bunkers. Gil, what are we doing? 180? Are you kidding me? I'm not so worried about sand play as I am about strategy. Holes like 2, 6, 11, 18. Where do those bunkers sit off the tee, and who has the best strategy to be successful this week at the PGA Championship?
No, you're right about the size of the greens. That's big in terms of, and that's average in excess of 8,000 square feet. So with that being said, since you were in Charlotte and we have one week, and his putting stats overall, look, he won the Masters, but he's outside the top 100 after having an excellent year statistically putting. What's your view of Rory this week in the putter?
I think Rory is going to find the putter, no doubt. He's always been a great bent grass green putter. He certainly got, I think Quail was a warm-up week. Maybe 4 titles there is enough for him. But certainly you saw and I saw live on property that Rory was working out some kinks by Sunday. That smooth 67 looks very, very stellar as you come in here to Aronimink. And no doubt we know that he stayed at my house for the week, Gary. That's why he was here up preparing.
Yes. Yeah, I love that that was his response. But let's show the standings because we're going to allow you to give a thought because we'll roll from the standings to picks. Brendan, sitting up there at number 1, Gil 2, me 3. You have made a steady, methodical move. Give me your thoughts about this week and who are you playing as we transition to the picks?
Well, speaking of steady, methodical moves, I'd watch out for Scheffler this week. A lot of things match his skill set. So the number 1 player in the world might actually just be the favorite this week. Go figure. For me, I'm going to go Cam Young. I think the agronomy is too close to home. And I love the fact that his best PGA finish was at Southern Hills. Gil Hanse, restoration.
Yes.
I think that golf course is going to play very similar to this golf course. Cam was T3 there. His best ever PGA Championship finish. I like Cam Young for myself this week.
How about his home course of Sleepy Hollow? Gil Hanse, restoration as well. So here are not only our picks, but also these are the ones you see every week. But it's a major, so we're extending the roster. So everybody who makes contributions here on 5 clubs. So we have Mel Reed going with Cam Young, just like Keith is. How about Gabby Herzig playing the Koepka card? Amelia Duran goes Cam Young, and Josh Carpenter. Is that Chris Kringle or is that Josh Carpenter of the Sports Business Journal? That is an excellent impersonation of Chris Kringle. But those are the extended, robust picks. Last thought from you. Give me a flyer. Give me somebody off the grid that you have a feeling about.
I've got a feeling about Sam Burns. Driver, wedge, putter has been his MO. The last 2 big tournaments, Players and the Masters, a 13th and a 7th. Last year, he showed up at the U.S. Open, which I believe was here in Pennsylvania. Sam Burns, further down the board, provides some value. If you got to roll the rock, Burns on the carpet. Love it.
All right, there you go. And again, all the stuff at Read the Line. This is, in watching this man work, that's all he does is work. Because everything changes with every shot, all of his information, all of his data, all of his updates, all of his predictions, his forecasting, all there at Read the Line. Keith, have a great week. I'll see you up there.
I can't wait to see you, Gary. And it's a great week to be home. Let's go, Philly.
There you go. Keith Stewart, again, the overlord of Read the Line. Not only am I picking Scottie Scheffler to win and go back-to-back, I think the ingredients are there, but this is just the finicky nature about major championship golf. And I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and it was in the aftermath of the Masters. These great players, kind of touch each other or have these interludes in terms of him being close and them being in the last group and one running 1 and one running 2, as Scheffler and Rory did at the Masters. I have a feeling we could get it. I hope so. For all of us here at 5 Clubs, enjoy the PGA Championship. We'll see you next Monday.